Good morning, everyone. My name is Skip Rogers, and my foundation is Able Forces Foundation. What I'd like to do now is to start with the Pledge of Allegiance, something I said every morning as a child in my class. I think there's very few schools that do that, and I believe there's a lot of children that don't even know what it is. So I'd like you to put your hand over heart, face the flag, and pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Right.
I want to thank each of you for being here today. I believe your attendance is more than just attending another event at the Gazebo. It's a realization and recognition that's changed our homes, our families, our way of life, and our national security. I invite each of you to remember and understand the events that took place at this time 23 years ago. I hope to share with each of you the hours and minutes of that horrific morning that most of us, if not all, remember. On this Patriot Day and National Day of Service and Remembrance, we pay tribute to the heroes and victims who lost their lives on September 11th. And we recommit ourselves to the spirit of unity, patriotism, and service that we all experienced. So many of us remember that horrible day, where we were, when the towers fell, when the Pentagon burned, and the ground smoldered in rural Pennsylvania field at Shanksville. Our nation was in shock and rallied to stand arm in arm, feeling the assault on our democracy and our freedoms. There were heroes that day, so many we can't name them. Our first responders, fire, police, military, law enforcement, medical personnel, emergency personnel, and everyday Americans in shock at what happened, in horror. This day we must remember the thousands that lost their lives that day, the thousands injured, some recovering, some not. Our wars fought as a result of the assault on our freedoms. Thousands, tens of thousands killed or maimed, some of whom are with us today. There's an old song from my youth that resonates with me when I think of this tragic day. Teach your children well. Never forget. We say it often. We have a generation in this country that wasn't born during the worst of times. Many of this generation are only aware that daddy or mommy or my uncle, grandpa, grandma was hurt during the war. This event changed our nation. We see it every day. Everywhere we go, we're reminded of the security now in place, the steps now taken to protect ourselves. It's incumbent on each one of us to teach our children well. Never forget. Never forget that day. Our freedoms as Americans depend on it. I thought it'd be important to share some of the background leading up to the crashes so that we remember what went on, how it happened. At 5:45 a.m., 23 years ago this morning, Mohammed Atta and Abdul Aziz Omari, two of the intended hijackers, passed through security at the Portland International Airport in Maine. They board a commuter flight to Boston Logan International. They then board American Airlines Flight 11. At 7:59, 23 years ago today, Flight 11 takes off from Boston, headed for Los Angeles. There are 76 passengers, 11 crew members, and 5 hijackers on board. At 8:15, 23 years ago today, United Airlines Flight 175 takes off from Boston, also headed for Los Angeles. There are 51 passengers, 9 crew members, and 5 hijackers on board. 8:19, 23 years ago today, a flight attendant on Flight 11, Betty Ann Ong, alerts ground personnel that a hijacking is underway and that the cockpit is unreachable. 8:20, 23 years ago today, American Airlines Flight 77 takes off from Dulles, outside of Washington, D.C., headed for Los Angeles. There are 53 passengers, 6 crew members, and 5 hijackers on board. 8:24, Mohammed Atta, a hijacker on Flight 11, gained access to the cockpit, unintentionally alerts air controllers in Boston to the attack. He meant to press the button that allowed him to talk to the passengers on this flight. 8:37, after hearing the broadcast from Atta on Flight 11, Boston Air Traffic Control alerts the U.S. Air Force Northeast Defense Sector, who then mobilizes the Air National Guard to follow the plane. 8:42. United Flight 93 takes off from Newark, New Jersey, after a delay due to routine traffic. It was headed for San Francisco. There are 33 passengers, 7 crew members, and 4 hijackers on board.
Chief, where are you?
At 8:46, Flight 11 crashes into the World Trade Center's North Tower. All passengers on board are killed instantly, and employees of the World Trade Center are trapped above the 91st floor.
I can leave.
We have a few minutes before we'll come together again. I'd like us all in this time to just think about what happened that day, that moment, that contributed to changing the lives of every single American. So many of you here have devoted your life to helping protect us. We thank each of you, all of you.
Skip, it's a solemn time. Where were you when this happened?
I was on Connecticut Avenue, Mike, in Washington, D.C. I was working on a contract with a company called Intelsat. And we have a large lunchroom there, and there was a bunch of commotion that was going on.
I'll be in touch.
And folks came down and said, there's been a plane crash in New York. Went upstairs just about the time the second plane crashed into the South Tower. They shut down the building, as they did everything in Washington, D.C. that day, closed the bridges, and it was rather chaotic because there were numbers of rumors that there were bombs planted here and there and so forth. That's when the Pentagon was hit. And my most vivid memory is circling around trying to get across one of the bridges which was closed. And the dramatic scene of just smoke pouring from the Pentagon across the Potomac River.
I don't think we ever realized that we would ever be attacked.
No, never had. And God help us, it will never happen again. There were so many mistakes that were made, so many things overlooked, and I'm hoping that we learn from them. Yeah.
And now, fast forward to
Well, Chief, we're asking people where were they? I think we most remember. How about you?
So that particular morning, I was still working for the Warren County Sheriff's Office. I was assigned as an SRO at the time. And when the plane hit, the first plane hit, I was assigned to the Warren County Middle School, which is the 15th Street complex where Health and Human Services is now. But I was at what's now the Warren County High School. At that time, it was the Warren County Junior High School. And when that first plane hit, of course, like everybody else, was like, oh man, it's a terrible accident. And then when that second plane came in, we knew things were not good. So we all hustled to our schools because we knew there was going to be an onslaught of concerned parents and trying to keep the staff and the kids relatively calm as possible during that time. But I will never forget the feeling when that second plane flew into that building, because we're watching it unfold on live TV, and it was just
We're mesmerized by the television right there.
yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was terrifying. It was terrifying, and it was one of those moments where, we hadn't been attacked like that in quite some time. There had been, obviously we'd had some other, there was a bombing in New York and previous to that, and some things, but not since Pearl Harbor had that level of an attack been carried out on our soil. And it was just we still carry that forward, and it's kind of, I'm glad that things like this are occurring, because we've got young adults coming up now that weren't born when 9/11 occurred. And I don't know that you can ever truly appreciate what that was all about, without having had some of that experience. So
Well, it brought our country together that day.
big time. The patriotism was at an all-time high for sure. for years after that. And events like this, I think, help bringing some of that back together for us. So I hope this continues to occur in other areas around the country, and we get some of that patriotic spirit back, because we need it. We need it. So, yep, sure thing.